Hey everybody, I'm Benjamin, aka The Terrible Australian at supermaster.com, and welcome to my video review of the sixth and final installment of the Paranormal Activity series with Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension. So let's get right into it. Now I'm just going to state off right off the bat, I actually do like the Paranormal Activity films. I don't care what anyone says. I think the very first film is a legitimately fantastic horror film, and definitely, in my opinion, one of the best horror films of the noughties. So, and it actually made my top 10 horror films of that decade. So, and I actually enjoyed the sequels as well. So, like they weren't as good as the first one because, you know, when you kind of, when you kind of sort of have different sort of takes on the same type of formula, you kind of, this horror kind of lessens over time, and the series doesn't become as scary as it once was before. So, but that happens to every horror franchise, and let's be honest, it does. So, but at the same time, though, they kind of make up for it in having an interesting sort of mythology and having some really cool sort of ideas, and then occasional creepy moments as well. But so, and of course, you know, the very first Paranormal Activity is one of the very few horror films to actually legitimately scare me. So, but you know, that's a whole different story altogether. But so when it came to the sixth installment, I was definitely very interested to check it out, and I was looking forward to see how they're going to wrap up this series. But since this is the final installment, and they sort of over the entire series, they sort of built up an interesting sort of mythology with these films, like. And I'm thinking, how are they going to sort of answer? Are they going to answer all the questions, or are they going to answer some of the questions and leave others ambiguous, or like what? How are they going to explain what happens? So I'm going to start off first. I think the first 2/3 of this film I found to be quite solid and actually entertaining. Like I found there was nothing particularly scary about what happens in the first 2/3. But I did think it had some really interesting, the way it had sort of approached like with its story and all that, I did find really interesting, and I was curious to see where it was going to go with it. And also, it had the actors in the film I found to be quite likable, so I actually did care about them. And there was some pretty cool moments in there as well. But unfortunately, though, and this really frustrates me. Once it gets to the third act, that's where the film kind of just nosedives completely. And like, I didn't mind where it was going with it at first, but once it gets to the actual ending, to me, here's the thing: if your film is going to be the very last film of a series, you need to come up with an ending that sort of sends the series off on a high note, and also to be satisfying to the viewers of the series, because, and you wanted them to feel as though, you know, it makes sense that the film will go this way, and it wraps up all the plots and the stories and everything we've seen before in a way that we, like I said before, as we feel satisfied. Unfortunately, the film does not do that at all. Like, it does answer some questions, I'm not going to lie. But the ending, though, I guess... How can I put this? This is not the ending I wanted, to be honest. And to me, it's the kind of ending that feels like, really? This is how you're going to end the series? And when you kind of... And, like, it didn't bother me at first. Like, I thought, oh, okay, weird, but alright. But once I sort of started thinking about it and looking back on it, this ending doesn't make any sense at all. And if anything, it kind of ruins what was built up over the last few films. Like, and in a way, like, over the last couple, like from, you know, the first to the 5, they sort of come up with interesting sort of things with the mythology, and they sort of brought up a lot of questions. And I'm thinking, like, how's it going to tie that up in this last installment? But if anything, though, when I sort of think back on, after watching this ending and everything, like, what they were setting up with the previous films, it just doesn't make any sense. And, like, I don't want to say that the series is worthless now or anything like that, because I think, like, each of the first film you can just watch on its own because it's a fucking great horror film. Well, pardon my language. And all the other ones are kind of work on their own as well, and like they're decent films on their own. But this one kind of just ruins like what was set up. And if anything, it just made me even more confused about what was going on in the other films. And it just really frustrated the hell out of me. And I hate when films do that. And if anything, I have more questions now than I did in the lead up to this one. Like, yeah, the other films had questions, but like you kind of felt like, oh yeah, you know, they're going to answer them eventually. But this one, like I said, it does answer some questions. Like we finally see Toby, the sort of demon ghost creature. We finally see, minor spoilers, we finally see what he looks like. And I thought, okay, that's it. Like, that's kind of cool. Maybe it's not scary, but it's actually, like, at least how they sort of, the design of the character and how they sort of approach him is interesting, but it's not, but like, I'm not going to say wasn't blown away by it, but I thought, okay, that's fine, like, you know, that's cool. But then once it sort of gets to the end and sort of finishes up its story, it's the ending that kind of just ruins this film. And it's a shame because I actually was enjoying it right up until the very last half of the film. And if anything, I still have more questions. And I don't know whether it's just, they didn't answer all the questions I wanted, like I've been wanting the series to actually answer, or it's just made all the questions that the series has brought up to this point not make any sense at all. So, I don't know, that's really frustrating and really annoying. And basically, it's two halves of a decent film. Like, for the first two halves, I'll say it this. If it's, the first two halves I would say would be a 3. The last half, 1.5. So if I had to rate this film overall, I'd probably give it a 2. And it's a shame because I enjoy this series, and it's really this third act in this film that completely ruins not only this film, but even kind of puts a damper on the other films as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to enjoy them anyway. And like I say, the first film is so good for what it is. You can just watch that on its own without having to ever watch any of the other films because it works as a self-contained story. But unfortunately, this kind of ruins it. I mean, this final installment kind of ruined the ending. Well, I should say the ending of this final installment just basically is just ruined, kind of sullied the series for me a bit, but not in a way that I hate it or think it's pointless now, but like, I'll see how I feel about it when I see it again at some point. But unfortunately, this was not the ending I wanted for this series. And if anything, it just made it more. It just is asking more questions. It was just so frustrating and annoying. So, if I had to give this film a rating, like I said, 2 stars. So, yep, that's the end of my video review of Paranormal Activity: The Ghost Dimension. I hope you guys all enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys all later. See you, everyone.